Every week in the past her legs had been swollen, heavy, and stiff. Simply getting up from a chair felt like dragging blocks of concrete. Steps had been gradual, sleep became stressed, and the pain in no way pretty went away. It wasn't an unprecedented case. It is something so many humans over 60 quietly stay with however, here's the element that unmarried day surprises anybody after simply 7 days. Her legs felt lighter, the ache dwindled. She should flow greater, freely sleep higher, and even revel in a morning walk without fear of stumbling. And no, there has been no new prescription, no health practitioner go-to, and no high-priced system. All she did became apply a easy oil to her legs. Normal and oil maximum humans have already got sitting in their kitchen. It has been used for centuries but forgotten, in brand new world of tablets and strategies, and what it did in only 1 week without facet effects, without pressure felt, not anything brief of. And brilliant, this video is for anyone who is uninterested in the ache, the swelling, that nagging heaviness with inside the legs due to the fact. Sure, you may ease it, you may sense mild once more, and it begins afeebled with something as small and effective as this herbal oil, so stick around due to the fact, with the aid of using the end, even you will recognize precisely a way to use it, what consequences to assume day by day, and 3, and where, and earlier than we move on. Go away so that you in no way miss herbal mixtures too. Take it similarly, remark underneath together, along with your age you are looking from, and remember, enroll in Health 365 sensible herbal guidelines that in reality work. And now let's take a better examine why legs after 60 begin to sense heavier. Her vegetation, her calves did not awaken one. What is virtually happening below she in no way anticipated, like Floor Margaret. It happened morning with heavy legs. Step by step before everything it became simply a stupid pain in the back of her knees after a walk to the mailbox. Then she began out noticing how her ankles overrated with the aid of using nighttime even on days she slightly moved while she bent right. All the way down to water could cramp up. By the point she reached 70, to even getting out of her recliner required attempt. Many girls her age, Margaret thought. Well, perhaps that is simply what getting older feels like. But the fact became her. Fromm had been giving her quiet warnings for years. Her stream became slowing. The blood vessels that after pumped effortlessly had been now stiff and slender blood wasn't flowing down or returned up as well because it used to, and without steady stream, her legs had been ravenous for oxygen and vitamins. It is why they felt worn out and vulnerable, like they simply could not preserve up on the identical time. Fluid became constructing up in her decreased frame. Her kidneys and lymph machine weren't clearing water as effectively, and gravity pulled all of it to her toes and ankles. That swelling wasn't simply uncomfortable, it made strolling harder, stability trickier, and sleep greater stressed. And let's now no longer neglect about muscle loss without everyday stimulation. The muscle mass in Margaret's thighs and calves had been quietly shrinking. She wasn't lazy. However, weaker muscle mass supposed extra unaware pressure on her joints and a greater hazard of falling. It wasn't hopeless. Her frame failed to want miracles. It needed assist. And Margaret discovered that assist with inside the maximum sudden manner. Let's talk approximately it now. It changed into a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Whilst Margaret discovered the bottle, she wasn't even seeking out it. She had been reorganizing her spice cabinet, some things she hadn't achieved in years, and there it changed into a small glass bottle tucked in the back of the vinegar and dried oregano. She picked it up, studied the label, and smiled too. She remembered herself. Rosemary oil, shopping for it a while in the past. After analyzing it, changed into top 4 sore muscle mass. However, like so many matters, it were forgotten that nighttime her legs had been aching once more. As an alternative of attaining for her heating pad, she decided why now no longer. She rubbed some drops of the rosemary oil among her fingers, warmed it barely, and lightly massaged it. Into her the heady fragrance by myself changed into calves and thighs, sufficient to shift the environment herbal, clean, calming. However, it changed into what happened subsequent that, without a doubt, amazed her within minutes. She felt a gentle, warm temperature rising beneath her pores and skin, now no longer burning, only a comforting sensation, as though her legs had been waking up that night. Time for the primary time in weeks she slept through without cramping. Rosemary oil would possibly sound easy. However, there may be a purpose. It has been used for generations. It is now no longer only a kitchen herb. It is full of effective plant compounds, like rosmarinic acid, and Roman healers used rosemary antioxidants. Those herbal factors help raise blood flow, soothe infected tissues, and simplicity, muscle anxiety, and truth. Ancient Greek oil, precisely this manner for worn-out legs. stiff joints and aching FT after lengthy walks. What makes it unique is how speedy it really works. It stimulates peripheral stream. That means it brings blood return to the regions that want it maximum, the legs, ankles, and FT. It is also anti-inflammatory, so it facilitates lessen the swelling that builds up from status or sitting too lengthy, and perhaps simply as essential, it brings a experience of peace that sent that warm temperature, that ritual for Margaret. It had become extra than only a rub down. It had become a second for herself. Now, if you are questioning how precisely to apply this oil to get the same sort of effects, do not worry, I'm approximately to stroll you through it, step by step. Let's cross there subsequent now. Let's talk approximately how Margaret used the oil now. No longer simply what she used. However, how due to the fact this part is what turns an easy product into a defective each day. Ritual, the satisfactory time to follow Rosemary. Oil is proper after a warm bathe. It really is, whilst your pores and skin is clean. Your pores are open and your muscle mass are already a touch comfortable. However, even supposing you haven't simply bathed, what topic's maximum is that your legs are smooth and dry. Margaret might first preserve the little bottle in her fingers for some seconds, simply sufficient to heat it lightly. If it felt bloodless, she'd location it close to a heat towel for a moment. Then she'd pour 5 or 6 drops into her palm, rub her fingers collectively, and take a deep breath. That heady fragrance, that herbal, earthy, grounding heady fragrance became like flipping. She continually began out at her, a transfer. It advised her frame. This is your time now. Ankles transferring in gradual circles upward, now no longer speeding. Now no longer urgent, too difficult, simply firm, loving strokes up her calves and the back of the moved. Even slower, lengthy, and knees back, pedal the shins, and then bettering to the thighs. And on her thighs she motions like she became, giving her legs a one leg. Took her approximately 5 to 7. It wasn't simply rub down, it became connection minutes. She breathed deeply as she moved, syncing her contact together, along with her breath in, through the nostril, out through the mouth, and it had become a form of meditation, a moment of silence and care and a loud global. Here is what she observed labored first rate. An afternoon, as soon as within sight, the morning to energize the legs for the day in advance, and once more at night, time to launch the strain of her rhythm-like anxiety that had constructed up at some stage in the day's 7 days. That is all it took to feel the shift after that first week. Margaret did not forestall, she simply adjusted on occasion, as soon as an afternoon on occasion. Most effective at night time, when her legs felt heavier. However, it wasn't a chore. It had become a part. Brushing her enamel or consuming tea earlier than mattress. And in case you need to make it even greater effective, there are little matters you may upload after the rub down. She'd frequently prop her legs up on 2 pillows, simply 15 minutes of elevation. Assist blood waft again closer to the heart. Different instances if her legs felt especially sore, she'd lay a heat towel throughout them. After massaging, that wet warmth helped the oil soak in deeper and take in extra consolation. However, the maximum vital part wasn't any of that. It became the stillness. No telecells morphin, no TV, no history noise. Simply Margaret, her fingers, and her breath. Due to the fact while you gradual down something, adjustments. Now no longer simply on your frame, however, in your spirit, too. And in case you're wondering what occurs when you do that for a complete week properly, that is precisely what we'll discover. Subsequent, what amazed Margaret Maximo wasn't simply how her legs felt. It became how rapid they commenced to reply by. The give-up of the primary weak matters had shifted in a manner she hadn't felt in years, and even as absolutely everyone is different of many human beings, file a comparable rhythm alternate. The primary day wasn't approximately pain, comfort, it became approximately presence. Simply taking the time to rub down her legs, to breathe, to recognition on herself already made her experience lighter now. No longer bodily, perhaps. However, emotionally, it reminded her that her frame nevertheless mattered. That she nevertheless mattered through the second one day. There's been a diffused distinction. Her legs didn't experience as stiff. While she stood up, and at night the same old cramps failed to jolt her awake. She slept extra deeply, extra peaceably. Day 3 introduced a touch surprise. At the same time as shifting across the residence, she observed some things. She wasn't shuffling anymore. Her steps felt smoother. Her toes, the heaviness became starting to lift. Failed to drag. She nevertheless had pain, sure, however, through day, for her pores and skin appeared healthier. The dryness and flakiness she'd ignored had been now changed with a tender glow. Her legs appeared alive once more, and that in turn made her experience extra alive at the 5th and 6th days. Something else appeared, self-assurance. She walked a touch taller, failed to hesitate while stepping off the decrease. She even climbed the steps without gripping the railing, and on day 7 she paused, peered down at her legs, and smiled due to the fact for the primary time in a long term, they failed to experience like a burden. They felt like a part of her once more, and at the same time as the ones 7 days can carry real alternate. A few humans discover even higher effects after they discover different oils that in shape. Their unique wishes permit me display you some of the great ones. At the same time as rosemary oil, labored wonders for Margaret. It is now no longer the handiest herbal alternative out there in truth, relying on what your legs are going through. Whether or not it is swelling, midnight cramps, or visible veins, there's probably every other oil that fits your frame even higher. Permits start with one which many humans over 60 are rediscovering arnica oil in case your legs bruise without difficulty, experience soft to the touch, or swell after on foot or status. This is probably what your frame's been quietly desiring. Arnica comes from a bright yellow flower lengthy utilized in traditional treatments throughout Europe. While applied well, it allows ease, infection, and calms the muscle groups. It's been overworked. Margaret's buddy Helen 75, who stands on her toes maximum days, promoting greens at the marketplace, swears through it now after using it for only a few days. The pain at the back of her knees melted away now. In case your largest battle is sleep, specifically if leg soreness continues you up at night, there is lavender oil. Its heady fragrance by myself is sufficient to quiet the thoughts. However, while massaged into the legs, it does even extra. It lightly relaxes the muscle tissues and calms overactive nerves. Lavender would not simply assist your legs relaxation, it allows you relaxation. That's why many human beings hold it near their bedside, geared up for the one's evenings whilst the frame simply may not settle down. Then there may be horse chestnut oil. This one's specially beneficial if you're managing terrible, circulate, or visible veins. It has been used throughout Europe, especially in Germany, to assist improve blood vessel partitions and lessen the sensation of heaviness within side. The decreased legs for people who locate their ankles ballooning through the quid of the day, or who experience like their legs are sincerely giving up. Horse chestnut is probably precisely what they want. Now you should choose simply one of few human beings combo. Some drops of every right into a service oil like almond or olive, and practice it the identical way. Others change primarily based totally on how their legs experience that day. What subjects? Maximum is oil, regardless of how effective works. Listening your frame usually speaks these oils simply assist you solution. However, remember how your legs know on my own to sincerely rework experience. There are some easy behavior you can begin doing these days, and they may be coming up subsequent. If you have ever questioned why a few to be a part of a health club museum or human beings get quicker outcomes than others, here's the name of the game. The oil does its part. However, your everyday behavior entire. The photo Margaret failed to alternate her whole lifestyles in a single day. She failed begin taking a dozen new supplements. What she did became a ways easier. She began transferring mindfully every morning before breakfast. She walked for simply 10 minutes round her block. No stress, no rush, and sundry can simply clean air, constant steps, and a little rhythm in her legs. That mild movement labored like a pump, encouraging circulate and assisting the oil do its task deeper and longer. She additionally 3 easy sports that all do at domestic status through her kitchen. She could upward thrust onto her feet and slowly decrease herself, strengthening her calves sitting in her armchair. She stretch one leg out at a time to engage, and on every occasion she remembered her thighs. She made gentle circles together along with her ankles to hold matters. Transferring it failed to take extra than 5 minutes. However, the effectiveness of her food failed to alternate. Tons both. However, she, like garlic, turmeric, that support began out including extra ingredients, healthful blood waft, and berries, and here she reduced again, simply a little on salt, especially with inside the evening, which helped lessen the swelling in her ankles, after which there's been relaxation every afternoon. Margaret took 15 minutes to raise her legs, simply pillows beneath her calves as she lay again, and breathed. That small smash gave her veins a chance to reset, and helped the swelling melt away. At night time she tucked a gentle pillow beneath her ankles at the same time as she slept. Easy start. This adjustments, however, they brought up beautifully, however clearly as extra human beings adventure questions arise. So let's take a second to reply the maximum, not on you. One surely and surely as extra and extra humans start attempting this easy routine. Some questions usually appear to return back up, and they're crucial due to the fact while we your veins are seen or apprehend our personal desires. Higher we get higher effects. The primary query is generally, can I nevertheless use the oil? I have varicose veins. The solution is sure, however lightly, in case. Touchy, do not press tough all through the rub down, use tender upward strokes. Without making use of strain immediately at the veins and increase your legs in a while. That small step makes a huge distinction than there is. I'm over 80. Will this nevertheless work for me? Sure, age would not cancel your they. Nevertheless, frame's capacity to reply. It'd take a bit greater time. However, your pores and skin, your muscle tissue, your movement, pay attention. We've got heard from humans in their past, 80s, or even early 90s, who felt more potent, greater, solid, and greater. Connected after only some days of constant care is that this handiest for ladies under no circumstances. Guys want this simply as plenty terrible. Movement, leg cramps, muscle loss, those do not pick favorites in truth. Many older guys who had then stated they in no way attempted rub down earlier had been taken aback with the aid of using how deeply it helped them. Now, no longer simply bodily, however emotionally, to some other not unusualist one, is how long ought to I preserve the usage of it? There's no precise rule. 7 days is a great begin. After that, you could hold as soon as an afternoon or few instances per week, relying on how your legs sense for a few. It will become a nightly addiction, something to stay up for. Simply pay attention for your frame. It'll inform you, and sooner or later, what if I do not sense effects proper away? Everyone's frame responds in a different way. In case your legs have been suffering for years, it can take a variety of days to unwind. Anxiety, be constant. Pair the oil with motion, hydration, and relaxation. Deliver it a little time, even small shifts, less sleep, less difficult steps. Means, do not listen. Enough is one ultimate element. I need to say swelling higher. Something is operating now. Earlier, then we wrap up there. Something many humans and at topics greater than you believe you studied, lets you to wherein you are. Communicate approximately that subsequent earlier than this video end. I need to remind you of something. However effective your legs have down, easy carried you via an entire life, via celebrations, via grief, via every step that added. Now they have supported you, while no one else ought to, and perhaps over the years, you stopped noticing them, or worse, started resenting them for hurting, slowing, or converting form. However, this is the truth. They nevertheless deserve care. You nevertheless deserve care now, no longer due to the fact you're trying to appearance more youthful now, no longer due to the fact you want to. You allow us to realize with inside the remarks and show whatever. However, due to the fact interest is 5 mins. Take a seat down, heat a little, a shape of affection, and your frame is worthy of that love at each age. So tonight, take oil to your fingers. Breathe slowly and simply. Concentrate on your frame and your breath, to that quiet feeling of coming domestic to yourself. If this video intended something to take into account, to subscribe to Health Routine, actual herbal approaches to send sturdy, supported, and absolutely alive in your personal frame. Till subsequent time, stroll lightly and stroll with love.